All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, I remember the first time that I really got the opportunity to watch Terrence Crawford box. It was on HBO against Yuriorkis Gamboa. And I thought that it was a very exciting fight, but I was not that impressed because it was very obvious that, number one, Gamboa was the much smaller man. He was also coming off of a very long layoff. I thought that Crawford had decent speed, good power, great heart, but I also saw a lot of flaws to his game. But over the past few years, he's gotten better and better with every fight. He's gotten more and more big fight experience. And he has another big fight coming up against Mr. Amir Khan. For those of you who don't know, Amir Khan was one of the more decorated amateur boxers, and he competed in the 2008 Olympics. He was a silver medalist. As a pro, he's been able to defeat many, many very well-known opponents like Zab Judah, Poli Malignaggi, etc. He also had a dogfight against Lamont Peterson that could have went either way, even though Lamont got the decision. I remember the night that he got knocked out by Danny Garcia. He was whooping Danny Garcia's ass, and that's one of the main reasons why Danny Garcia never gave him a rematch. Khan is a very awkward fighter, but he's also extremely fast, and he hits hard. What he's also known for, though, is that he has a chin made out of cotton candy. So I'm sure that Terrence Crawford is going to try to take advantage of that fact when they finally get in the ring. I have been a bit critical of Terrence Crawford because, in my view, for someone who's trying to unify the welterweight belt, for him to sign back with Bob Arum as opposed to moving over to the Al Heyman stable, that tells me that he's not that serious about attaining all the welterweight belts. But who knows? Maybe there'll be some mega welterweight matchup between himself and Errol Spence, or himself and Sean Porter, or whoever is able to attain all the welterweight belts in a year or so. I'm hoping that that's the case. But both Amir Khan and Terrence Crawford recently sat down with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman to discuss their up-and-coming fight. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
34 fighters have tried and 34 have failed. Terrence Crawford is considered one of, if not the best, pound-for-pound boxers in the world. Well, guess what? He's putting his WBO welterweight championship on the line when he faces Amir Khan April 20th in a main event of a top-ranked boxing card that ESPN will carry on pay-per-view.
Let me say this very quickly. Amir Khan is coming off of a very devastating knockout loss to Canelo Alvarez. What we know about Amir Khan is that he has no fear. He will fight anyone, and he deserves all the credit for that. But he's almost delusional in his level of self-belief. He really suffers from delusions of grandeur, and I think that he's going to get very badly hurt in this fight against Terrence Crawford. Either he's going to get very badly hurt, or who knows, maybe he'll shock the world, but I doubt it. But I'll make my official prediction about that fight when it finally starts to come to fruition during fight week, etc.
Let me throw it over to Stephen A. and Max now, who are with both fighters.
Terrence, Amir, great to have you here.
Thanks, man.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Terrence, you and I worked over I worked a bunch of your fights over at HBO. You're here at...
Yes, Terrence Crawford was the token great black fighter on HBO. After they were dumb enough to let Floyd Mayweather leave their stable, they had to build up their quote-unquote black fan base by pushing Terrence Crawford. Because other than Terrence Crawford, all the fighters that they were pushing were either Asian or Hispanic. They refused to push black fighters on HBO, which is why there is no more HBO boxing.
ESPN now? How's your experience been so far?
It's been a great experience. You know, I'm happy to be here amongst a lot of other great fighters at ESPN.
But I mean, like, the reason I ask is because ESPN is very plugged into kind of mainstream popular culture of sports, as opposed to being kind of a niche sport. Are you sensing that? Do you feel like awareness of you, who are considered by many the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, has risen?
Why would his profile rise because he's fighting on ESPN, especially when you guys have him fighting on an app? Basically, in order for you to watch Terrence Crawford fight, you have to be a Terrence Crawford fan. It's not like people are turning on ESPN and watching him fight because he's not on your regular channel. So I'm not quite sure how well this is working out when it comes to amplifying his brand or his profile.
Of course, when you talk sports, you talk ESPN. So it's a big platform to be on. I'm happy.
Let me get right into
Brother, you're just happy to get paid. You so low profile, you don't give a shit.
into this because I'm very, very curious about this. I want to know why this man. I know why he wants you. You're considered one of the best in the world, and obviously you're a champion, so he's coming for the belt. Why this man? Why do you want to fight him?
Easy, because Amir Khan has the biggest name at welterweight who's not fighting under the Al Haymon stable. That's why. And Bob Arum is not going to let Terrence Crawford fight any of those Al Haymon fighters because Bob Arum hates Al Haymon with a passion.
Well, he's considered one of the best welterweights out there.
Really, brother? Is Amir Khan really considered one of the best welterweights out there? What's the best victory that Amir Khan has at welterweight? I mean, come on now. The best victory that he has, I think, is when he beat the brother from St. Louis, Devin Alexander. He does not have any other major names at welterweight. All of his big victories came at 135 and 140. So just stop it.
He's took a couple of losses, but as you know...
A couple of losses? The man has been... Amir Khan has been murked in the ring. Like, even in many of Amir Khan's wins, he's ended up at certain portions of the fight walking around like a newborn baby deer.
You know, all the other top welterweights have fight dates. We would have liked to have another top welterweight lined up, but it didn't happen, so...
Terrence, knock it off, bro. You tried to challenge Danny Garcia to fight you over social media, and he was coming off of a loss, and he's fighting under a different stable. You knew that fight was not going to get made. You already knew that you were going to be fighting Amir Khan. That's how these boxers play these games. And I'm not calling Terrence Crawford afraid at all. I'm just calling him a person who's not particularly business savvy. Because if he really wanted to fight the big names over at the Al Haymon stable, he would have signed with the Al Haymon stable.
We got to go to the next best opponent.
Amir, talk to me about this, man, because obviously, you know, when people look at you, you listen, 33 and 4 is 33 and 4. We know that you can fight at the same time. You've suffered a couple of devastating losses. Talk to me about what this fight means to you to go into the ring against this guy, and why do you believe you can beat him?
Amir Khan believes he can beat everybody. That's why. His self-belief is never going to waver. He knows that if he beats Terrence Crawford, all of a sudden his name gets put up there in the top 10 pound-for-pound rankings once again.
Well, first of all, you know, when the opportunity came to me, I was like, yeah, I would love this fight. I mean, Terrence is up there being one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world and having a world title as well. So this is just a massive opportunity for me to turn down. If I want to be where I want to be, I've always said I want to be a world champion again, I want to be one of the best fighters coming out of Britain, this is the fight I need to win this fight. So I'm not only coming here just to make numbers, I'm coming here to win the fight. It's very hard when I fight these other guys who are a little bit less caliber than me. I mean, because it's hard to motivate myself. But this is a fight that I'm going to be well motivated, and I'm going to come in to win. And I know where it can take me.
You're a silver medalist. You have a lot of boxing skills. You're very fast. You're not afraid to fight anybody. And yet sometimes watching you, it feels like your heart gets in the way of your head.
Yeah,
so like you start opening yourself up and getting caught, and you've been a bit chinny. Guys have hit you, have hurt you.
A bit chinny. That's a bit of an understatement. I mean, come on. You can get Amir Khan to start walking like a zombie if you blow at his chin.
Your fighting hard is not in dispute, but people feel like they can reach and dent your chin because of that fighting hard. First of all, how do you respond to that?
I mean, how I respond to that, I mean, is when I have made mistakes in the past, I ran onto shots. Obviously, when you do get hit with a good shot, if you run onto it, it's going to be twice as hard. Maybe I've been off balance at times. But I mean, this fight, I know I can't make them mistakes. I mean, I've gone in...
Right, but Amir, what are you really saying? You're basically saying that you have terrible defense, you fight with your chin in the air, you have poor footwork, which you do. What gets you over is that you're a pretty good natural athlete. You're very fast with your hands and your feet, but you are very, very poorly coordinated. And you're going to get hurt in this fight. That's what's going to happen.
I'm into the ring with guys who I've never thought that can knock me down, and they have knocked me down. I mean, the last loss I had was against Canelo. I mean,
you were boxing well, but he caught you.
Yeah, he just caught me with a great shot, but I was boxing well. But, you know, that can happen in boxing. But in this fight, I know I can't make them mistakes, and I'm going to be on my A.
So the best I've ever seen you look...
And I apologize. It was not the 2008 Olympics that Amir Khan was in. It was the 2004 Olympics. He fought in Athens, not in Beijing.
Is in fights against Zab Judah and Paulie Malignaggi, right, when you moved up in weight and outboxed them right in the middle of the ring. You were hitting them with 3-4 punch combinations. Good defensive fighters, middle of the ring, completely outclassing them.
Let me say this very quickly. Yes, Amir Khan's best victories were against Paulie Malignaggi and Zab Judah. But what we also know about both of those fighters is that they both just happen to be from Brooklyn, But there are also a couple of fighters who were a bit over the hill when they fought Amir Khan. Zab Judah was anyway. I won't say that Paulie Malignaggi was. But Paulie Malignaggi has always been a great opponent. He's a guy who talked a great game coming into the fight and then get into the ring, into the fight against a very good to great fighter, and he could take a hell of an ass whooping. That's what Paulie pretty much could do. Paulie's never really been able to beat a big name opponent because he was not a great fighter. What he was a non-black fighter who could really run his mouth. He had decent hand speed. He had no power whatsoever, and he could take an ass whooping. So he was a novelty act. And Paulie might make the Hall of Fame just off the fact that he was able to win world championships in 2 different weight classes and had no power whatsoever.
How do you get to do that against this man who is considered by here, Lomachenko, or constantly considered the best pound-for-pound fighter?
Yeah, I mean, the way I have to do this is I have to be very smart in the ring. I'm going to set a game plan and stick to that game plan. I know things can go wrong in a fight. I'm going to let that happen in this fight, especially because there's a lot to lose and a lot to gain in this fight. So I'm going to go in there and do what I do best. Sticking to the game plan will get me through this fight.
Terrence, I want to know, how does fighting him help you in this regard? We know that you've got your eyes on Ultimate Prize. You want to unify the belts. You know, you got Errol Spence Jr. out there. You got Keith Thurman out there. You got a few others out there.
Keith Thurman ain't out there right now, bro. I saw Keith Thurman fight against Josecito Lopez. Keith Thurman is not out there. I promise you, Keith Thurman right now is begging Al Heyman for another tune-up fight before he gets to Pacquiao. And if I'm Al Heyman, I'm telling Keith, look, bro, you had 2 years off. You got into the ring with Josecito Lopez, who's a very big, strong, tough welterweight. That was your tune-up. Work hard because you're fighting Manny Pacquiao in July. Okay? So get ready.
You look at going up against a guy like him. How is that going to help you specifically as you know, because obviously you're confident you're going to beat him. How is that going to help you specifically as you aim to just take over the welterweight division?
Well, you know, Amir Khan has been in the ring with a lot of great fighters. Me beating him will put his name on my resume and move up on another level, I suppose.
Now, brother, did you just hear that? For all you guys who get upset with me when I say that I have Lomachenko ranked above Terrence Crawford in the pound-for-pound list, listen to what Terrence Crawford just said. He said he's fighting Amir Khan because Amir Khan has name recognition, and he's hoping that when he beats him, that it will raise him up another level, I suppose. In other words, Bob Arum told you that you're fighting Amir Khan. That's why you're fighting him. Okay? That's the only reason why you're fighting him. So I don't want to see you brothers come in my comment section, especially a lot of you pro-blackity black brothers who get upset when I say that I have Lomachenko slightly ranked above Terrence Crawford just because of resume. That's it. Once again, if Terrence Crawford was as serious as he claims to be about wanting all the belts at welterweight, he would have signed with Al Heyman. Okay? That's what he would have done. All he likes to do is troll all these Al Heyman fighters. He runs, he chases around Errol Spence. He harasses Danny Garcia over social media. But when it's time for him to put his money where his mouth is and sign with Al Heyman, he doesn't do it. And I have a lot of love for the brother. I like how he conducts himself overall. He seems to have a cool spirit. He loves his sons. But I don't want to hear all that shit, man.
In the division, a lot of people would say, oh, how is he going to beat Amir Khan? Is he going to beat him in what fashion? So,
look, I already know how you're going to beat Amir Khan. Amir's going to come out really fast. He might even touch you up a little bit early. Might, depending on, you know, how fast he still remains, because he is getting up there. He's around 30 years old. I'm not quite sure if Amir has that same level of speed that he once had. He does have sneaky power. What you're going to do is you're going to work him to the body, and you're going to touch his jaw, probably around rounds 3 or 4, and have him doing a Harlem Shake in the middle of the ring. That's what you're going to do.
I just believe, like, how I finish the fight or how the fight goes.
But does fashion matter to you in this particular fight? Is it about just I'm thinking you've got to look impressive in this fight to sort of force people's hands to get you in the ring with the other fighters that you truly want to have the other belts.
Well,
that he claims to want to fight.
Well, it don't matter what type of fashion I win. I just want to win. And then on top of that, that's still not going to get the fighters in the ring with me. Because if you looked at my previous fights, I stopped them all.
But considering that you're locked out of some fights in the division, the fighters you would like to fight to prove yourself, we keep talking about Lomachenko, a stablemate of yours now, a promotional stablemate of yours now. People are constantly comparing you to who's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Do you think you need to not just beat Amir, but dominate in order to make that case for yourself?
Absolutely he does. Look, at the end of the day, cats can get upset if they want to. Lomachenko beat Rigondeaux. He beat Nicholas Walters. He beat Gary Russell Jr. He beat a lot of guys who at some point were hovering around that top 10 pound-for-pound ranking. You can get upset about it if you want. Rigondeaux beat all those guys. Terrence Crawford has yet to beat anybody who anyone has considered to be a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter.
No, I just think a win would make a case.
Let me ask you this. First time we were on HBO when I was calling your fight against Bradis Prescott, you were brought in as a last-minute replacement. Not only
Bradis Prescott is the same guy who first mollywopped Amir Khan, knocked him the hell out.
Not only did you show exquisite boxing skills, switching up southpaw, orthodox, the whole thing, but you had a mean streak in you that slick boxers sometimes don't. I've seen you knock a guy out, and afterwards I'm doing the post-fight interview, and you're barking at him. Usually fighters are hugging and everything's forgotten, and you're still mad after the fight. I don't sense animosity here. How do you feel about Amir? And is that something you need to work up, like a hatred of your opponent, or is that just based on the guy's personality?
I believe it's the personality. I don't have no problem with Amir. You know, he respects me, I respect him. We're going to get in the ring April 20th. We're going to do our thing. And, you know, I'm going to shake his hand afterwards. But
there are just some fighters who they prefer to hate their opponent or dislike their opponent. Max Kellerman is overly infatuated with the energy that Terrence Crawford has for his opponents. At the end of the day, they're getting into the ring to try to knock one another out. So if there's still some animosity in the immediate aftermath of the fight, that should be understandable. As I've stated in previous videos, there have been many fighters, Joe Frazier, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson, who worked up an actual hatred for their opponent going into the ring. There are certain fighters that are like that.
When the disrespect started to come into play, then that just put a little chip on my shoulder.
Super quick, who's the aggressor in this fight?
Early on, it'll be Amir. By about round 4 or 5, it'll be Terrence Crawford.
I mean, it's hard to say because, I mean, Terrence likes to come forward. I like to come forward as well. I mean, I think it'll be a bit of mix, really.
Terrence, you coming to get him, or you guys boxing?
Terrence is going to sit back and see what Amir Khan's speed looks like early on. Because I'm sure that his trainers will tell him, be wary early because Amir is very fast early. So you want to get a taste for his overall cadence. Because Amir does not alter the speed of his punches at all. He just doesn't. Everything is full blast. So once you get accustomed to Amir Khan's speed, then you can start to time him. And that's what he's going to do early. So Terrence is going to sit back early and see what Amir Khan's punches look like. And then after a while, he's going to adjust.
You got to wait and see.
Somehow, some way, I sense a knockout coming. Period.
Stephen, why are you being so disrespectful to Amir Khan for?
Back to y'all.
All right.
Period. But anyway, we'll see what happens when Terrence Crawford finally gets a chance to face off against Amir Khan. I'll do a preview video for that when the time comes, but I pretty much have already let it out of the bag. This is just another tune-up fight in a string of one too many tune-up fights for Mr. Terrence Bud Crawford. So now fight week is here, and both fighters are sitting down with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman to discuss their up-and-coming fight, which is going to be held tonight in New York City. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Thanks. Amir, you once ran the 140-pound division, and you were considered a guy who was going to move up pound-for-pound charts and maybe get that pound-for-pound fight one day. Now you got it against a guy your own size for the first time, right? Top pound-for-pound fighter, your own size.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very interesting fight, brothers. I'll say this. Amir Khan has always shown in his biggest fights against his best opponents that he has a few things. He has great speed, he has great heart, he has very poor technique, and he has a bad chin. So how long will he be able to survive against Terrence Crawford? And will he be able to hurt Terrence Crawford? We've seen Terrence get hurt before against Gamboa, albeit at 135, but we have seen him get hurt before. He's at 147, so we expect him to be much stronger. And he also is a better fighter technically right now than he was back then. So how can Amir Khan penetrate through his defense? Because Terrence has greatly improved his footwork. Amir's going to have to set up his right hand by utilizing his jab. Amir's not someone who really jabs to the body. He's also going to have to watch for when Terrence switches to southpaw for that straight left and the lead right hook. Amir's not known for his great defense, so we'll see what happens. I do believe that Terrence Crawford is going to stop Amir probably somewhere around rounds 9 or 10. But I do think that Amir is going to give a great effort. I'll say this, if Amir is able to last the whole fight, just due to his activity, I mean, assuming that he's not knocked down at any point in the fight, it may be a relatively close decision. So we'll see.
Everyone I talk to thinks it's going to be a great fight through the 6 rounds, 8 rounds, and then I haven't heard a person yet say, and then Crawford's not going to win. What do you have to say to that?
I mean, people are going to say that, you know, obviously they're going to see from the last performance I had against Vargas. Maybe I didn't look the best. It's just very hard. You know, I've been in this game a very long time. It's hard to kind of lift myself up, motivate myself.
No excuses, Amir. At the end of the day, this is it for you. You're what, 31 years old, 32 years old maybe? You're going to be perceived as being a fighter who's on the downside. I give you credit. Amir always has gotten into the ring with the best opponents available. He's always searched out the greatest accomplishments. So I give him all that credit, all his just due. But he does have an unbelievably prominent Achilles heel, that being his cotton candy chin. He has not just been stopped in devastating fashion in previous fights against Brady Prescott and Danny Garcia and Canelo Alvarez, but in most of his big fights, he's been hurt. He was hurt against Marcos Maidana. Marcos Maidana had him stumbling around the ring, looking like a newborn baby deer. So I expect Terrence to be able to set up certain combinations that will have Amir in trouble at various points in the fight. So we'll see exactly the level of conditioning that Amir has. One thing that I will say is that in most of Amir's fights where he has gotten hurt, it's normally been against fighters who were naturally bigger than him, way bigger than him. When he fought against Lamont Peterson, he was hurt a few times. That was a disputed decision. But once again, Amir just always gets hurt. And Terrence Crawford's hands are too fast and he has too much power in both hands for him to not hurt Amir. So as of right now, I see a 9th round stoppage by Terrence Crawford.
But this is a fight where I know I need to motivate myself from bell number 1, from round number 1 to right to no room number 12. Because I have to stay strong throughout the whole fight. I know Terrence is going to come to fight, come to win. So I need to make sure that I'm going to do everything right in this fight and not make any mistakes.
No disrespect to you whatsoever, but when they talk about the top welterweights in the game right now, you think about Thurman, you think about other guys, and you know, obviously, you look at Errol Spence Jr. as well. You hear those names. So I'll ask you this question, champ. Amir Khan obviously can fight, and he's had a really good career, but do you worry at all, or how do you prepare yourself to not look past this guy when you see bigger names that are waiting on the horizon?
First off, how can bigger names be waiting on the horizon when Terrence Crawford, Amir Khan, Max Kellerman, you, Stephen A. Smith, me, we all know that he's not fighting under the right stable. Terrence Crawford had the opportunity to pursue those bigger and better opponents when he was a free agent. He chose to re-sign with Top Rank. So as of right now, I see Terrence Crawford as a fighter who's utilizing the Manny Pacquiao approach to promoting himself, meaning always mentioning Errol Spence's name, always mentioning these other fighters' names, running on Twitter or running on Instagram or Facebook or whatever and harassing these fighters, but knowing that there's a major stumbling block, there's a major fence between the two promotional companies, and Bob Arum's not going to make those fights, any of those fights, with Al Haymon's group, unless he's going to get a major windfall. Because the way that Bob Arum has his business contract set up, he's going to be making so much money off of Terrence Crawford that he would not make in a major fight against an Errol Spence. Because crooks like to do business with crooks. That's why Bob Arum loved to do business back in the day with Don King. He does not want to work with Al Haymon because Al Haymon is trying to empower his fighters. He's trying to teach his fighters how to be their own bosses. That's why he implores all of his fighters to form their own promotional companies. Learn how to get on television and represent yourself. Learn how to build up your own stable. Learn how to create and maintain your own business portfolio. These are things that these fighters are learning. That's why Al has a boxing talk show that's been created on Fox Sports 1 so that these fighters can get on TV and learn how to sell themselves, learn how to market and advertise what they do so that they don't have to fight on an app like Lomachenko or like Terrence Crawford, who obviously does not think on a higher level business-wise. He just wants all the money to flow through Bob Arum and hope that things come out right on the other end. And I hope that Terrence does not end up being one of these guys, 38, 39 years old, who still has to keep fighting, claiming that Bob Arum robbed him.
I don't worry about the bigger names in the division.
Of course you don't, because you know they're on the other side. So stop letting their names come out your mouth, bro, because we all know if you really wanted to fight them, you would have went to the PBC.
This is the task at hand. This is who I'm fighting, so this is where all my focus is going to. I don't overlook no opponent.
Terrence, you are considered, I said, you and Lomachenko, 1A, 1B. I have you number 1.
I have Terrence as 1A. I have Lomachenko over Terrence because Lomachenko has fought the greater competition. When you look at his resume, a lot of cats get upset with me when I say that. There's no disrespect to Terrence Crawford. He has all the tools in the toolbox, absolutely. But when we compare the names on his resume to the names on Lomachenko's resume, it's not even close. And Terrence fought about 20 to 25 more fights than Lomachenko. Cats can get upset with that if they want. I mean, look at this opponent. Amir Khan is a good opponent. He's a good opponent. But stop talking about Danny Garcia and Sean Porter and Errol Spence and Keith Thurman when you know damn well that it's going to take all types of miracles to make those fights. If you really wanted to fight those guys, you would have went to the PBC.
Lomachenko, what did you think of his performance last Friday night?
It was great.
Great performance.
Great performance.
Does that put pressure on you? Like, no one ever looks great against Amir Khan, at least first half of the fight. He's always like, oh, whoa, look.
Yeah, because of his activity. The issue with Amir is that he squares his shoulders up too much when he throws those long-ass combinations. His combinations are too long, number one, especially against dangerous fighters. And he exposes his chin when he throws those combinations. That's what leaves him open to get countered. Most of the time when Amir gets hurt, it's off a counter.
Look at Amir. Does that put pressure on you to look even more spectacular than Lomachenko to maintain your position pound for pound?
Not at all. Not at all. My job is to go in there and win. And no matter how it comes, just get the W. I'm not going to get in this, oh, I have to go out there and force this and force that because of what Lomachenko did in the past. No, I'm going to go out there and fight my fight.
Do you feel disrespected, Amir, by any of the questions so far? I mean, it's like, you're so great, you're so great. Yeah, Amir, you've been really good. You're going to do good for a little while. Do you feel disrespected by that? You're an international star in boxing.
I mean, I've been in the game a long time, and I think people sometimes forget that, there's only a year difference in age. I've won the world titles before, and this is just another time I'm going to come and win another world title come on Saturday. And I'm just going to have to come and prove everyone wrong. I know I've been looked at as the guy who's just going to be a number. I'm not just a number in this fight. I'm going to come to win this fight. And I've trained out my skin for this. If I knew I could not win this fight, I would never have taken it.
I mean, listen.
I had more money on the table in the UK against the Kell Brook fight, which was an easier fight.
So you left money on the table.
Amir's so funny. He loves talking shit, especially about Kell Brook. He said the Kell Brook fight's an easier fight. Honestly, I would love to see a fully healthy Kell Brook against Terrence Crawford, because Kell Brook gave Errol Spence hell. I would love to see him against Terrence Crawford. Kell Brook I'm talking about.
Able for an easier fighter in order to target him. Why?
I picked Terrence because I think there's a lot more to gain. He's a great opponent. He's a great fighter. Mm-hmm. He's a great champion. And to beat someone like him would take me on to that status.
Okay, I got it. First of all, let me be very clear. We know you can fight, but I'm going to look at who you lost to as well.
Yeah.
You got 4 losses in your career.
Yeah.
3 by KO. So I asked this question: why should we believe that you could beat this man, universally recognized as one of the top 2 fighters pound for pound on the planet?
I just don't think, he's got power. I think it's because I'm not going to be giving too much weight away. And I know that I'm respecting Terrence's record up to date, who he's fought, who he's beat, and I respect that. And I'm not going to go into this fight thinking I'm going to just go in there to win this fight. All the fights I've lost, apart from the Canelo fight, I was supposed to go in the fight and win the fight. So really, I was walking in there as the guy on his high horse who just had to show up and win.
No, the reason why you lost the previous fight that you lost, Amir Khan, is because you got in a ring with fighters who caught you coming in, who caught you getting sloppy. You have an issue being defensively responsible and protecting that cotton candy chin of yours. And your technique is a bit off kilter, especially, once again, your combinations are way too long. You're throwing 15, 20, 20 punch combinations on guys, and they're just sitting back waiting for you to expose your chin.
And I got clipped with a good shot, and I was put away. But in this fight, I am the underdog. I am going to go in there and prove a point. And I know I have to prove a point, not only to myself, but to the whole world. Go out there and
Canelo was not a fair fight. He's a middleweight.
I mean, he was big.
That fight should never have been made, but it's becoming fashionable for these fighters to try to move up in weight, 2 or 3 weight classes above their natural fighting weight, to try to play the hero and get sparked. And then supposedly you're not supposed to count that as a loss. No, sir. You got your ass wazazaz up by Canelo. Kell Brook got his ass wazazaz up by Triple G. And Mikey Garcia got his ass wazazaz up by Errol Spence. That's what happens when your ass jumps up 2 or 3 weight classes above your natural fighting weight, trying to be a damn hero.
Big, he was big, but I mean, the other guys, fine. I went in there thinking I was going to beat him quite easily.
Champ, I want to ask you something, and Stephen A. touched on it earlier. I don't mean to be disrespectful and look past this fight. This is a big fight. We're all looking forward to it Saturday night. I'll be there. I'm hosting. When you look at the welterweight division and you see the hype around Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia, Mikey really has no shot. In retrospect, he's moving up a bunch of weight classes to fight Errol Spence. And you see those welterweights being made a big deal of. How do you feel about that? You're considered better pound for pound, but they get a lot of kind of hype around them.
They get a lot of hype around them because they're under a stable where it's about the fighter. It's not about the promotional company. So Terrence Crawford has no room to complain. He made the decision to sign back with Top Rank.
And publicity, how do you feel about that?
Don't worry about it. I'm happy for him. Happy he's getting all that attention and everything that he's getting, because that's going to make the fight with me and him much more bigger in the future.
Right, well, after you beat Amir Khan and they ask you about Errol Spence in the post-fight press conference or the post-fight interview in the ring, are you going to say, yes, I want Errol Spence for my next fight, or are you going to say, talk to my promoter? Because that's the game that you've been playing. You've been playing the Manny Pacquiao game for the last year or so. The Manny Pacquiao game from 2009 all the way through the early 2010s was whenever he was asked about Floyd Mayweather, you got to talk to my promoter. That's what that motherfucker would say in the ring after the fight. But in the build-up to the fight, Floyd ducking me, I want to fight Floyd. This is the same game that Terrence Crawford is playing right now with Errol Spence. Building up to the fight, he's getting on Twitter and on social media, challenging Danny Garcia and Sean Porter and all these different guys. And then after the fight, he's talking about how you got to talk to his promoter. So which one is it?
Real quick. They're telling me to rap real quick. You're soft-spoken. I mean, you're a mean dude in the ring, but you're soft-spoken. And sometimes some of the fighters who get more publicity have big personalities. Adrian Bronner followed Mayweather.
If you follow any of Terrence Crawford's, if you follow any of his antics on social media, you know that he's not a soft-spoken guy. He's just not someone who's going to be transparent with everyone. But he has a very outgoing personality, especially when he ran up on Errol Spence.
He was supposed to be the next big thing because he talked big and didn't pan out the way you have. How do you feel about that, the way fighters are marketed and how they're expected to be outside the ring?
Well, I'm me. I'm not going to change for nobody.
Good for you, bro.
I'm not going to act like I'm somebody that I'm not.
Good for you.
What you see is what you get with me. So be it. Either you like it, love it, or you hate it.
Agreed.
That's it.
Tell you what, ding ding round 1, I love it. Terrence Crawford, welterweight champ, Amir Khan. Really look forward to the fight. Thanks a lot for being here today.
Thanks.
But anyway, we'll see what happens. Once again, I have Terrence Crawford by 9th round stoppage. So peace.